As I continue to look at film of the Ravens and Giants in preparation for Sunday's matchup in Week 6, the biggest indicator for me early on as to whether the Ravens will have success offensively is whether the Giants have an answer for the counter option scheme. It's kind of like Greg Roman's option 3.0. And I'm going to show a little bit of film from 2021, and I think maybe one play from 2020, or maybe it's all from 2021, and then show a little bit of what the Ravens did last week against the Bengals. It's quite evil, if you ask me, in terms of formation. It involves a lot of 22 personnel counter option schemes, and so there's a lot to say there. The Giants are going to counter with their base defensive personnel. They're going to have their base 3-4. They're going to certainly walk a safety up into the box, create an 8-man front or a 9-man front when they can. The Ravens are doing some unique things formationally to kind of prevent the defense from doing what I just described. It'll be an interesting chess match. Wink Martindale, as someone mentioned during the live stream this morning, he was in every meeting, for years with the Ravens in terms of game plans. And I'm sure he was consulted or asked and looked at, some of the things that the Ravens planned offensively when they were going against various teams across the NFL and vice versa. The Ravens coaches have knowledge of Wink's scheme, the rules that he has, the coverage rules, and what he plays against certain formations. So it kind of goes both ways. The one thing that, if you ask me, kind of betrays all that is the counter option scheme and the way the Ravens are doing it this year. So briefly, especially if you're a Giants fan or anyone else who's watching and not as familiar with the Ravens option, this is typically how the Ravens ran it under Greg Roman in 2019 when they weren't in the diamond formation. I will let this run back a couple of times. It's a nice play by the Vikings, don't get me wrong. It's not anything productive for the Ravens. The Vikings have inserted this defensive back number 24 into the structure of the defense right here. So he becomes the 7th man in the box. You can see they've got a shade 1 and a wide 5. Kind of would think it would create some nice angles for the offense to be able to get people blocked up, read this edge defender. And if you don't know, Lamar and the fullback on the opposite side are both reading that same edge defender post snap. So once the ball is snapped, there is a time period where they are both reading that edge defender. This is typically how the Ravens have done it under Greg Roman with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Now, you may say, well, Coach, his helmet's looking this way. Generally, Lamar is taught to look out of like 45-degree angle of his eye. I will admit to you, though, that here it doesn't look like he is really capable of seeing that D-end. He may be. I'm not sure. They don't want to show their face mask to the defender, which gives the defender a cue that they're being read. And he is being read because Mark Andrews is reading him as well. In this case, Andrews reads this as a keep read, and Lamar does as well. The only thing is this D-end is doing kind of the opposite of what T.J. Watt does. What T.J. Watt will do is run up field, force a give read, and then jump back inside to try to make the tackle on the running back. This D-end is doing the opposite. He's kind of stepping down to force a keep read, and then he's running up field because he understands the concept. He understands what's happening. So Greg Roman's scheme had to evolve. It had to kind of mitigate some of these factors. And one of the indicators, and I've talked about this numerous times, and we had a really cool conversation in our Discord a couple of weeks ago, Frank, Walter, a couple of other guys, where we were talking about the Ravens diamond formation, which is not what's shown here, but you would typically get 2 fullbacks, something like that alignment in terms of their feet, and you could really be predictive where the Ravens were going to run it, depending on which fullback was lined up closer to Lamar. Why? Because the fullback had to be able to get to the other side and either insert into the formation and go block the front side backer if the DN ran upfield, or if the DN violently goes down the line, to be able to loop around and go get that same front side inside backer, or in this case, a safety. So kind of, I digress there for a moment, just talking about diamond, just a little bit of the history of the Ravens option offense. Typically, it's going to be run opposite the fullback, and teams could kind of plan for that because it was simplified in terms of where we were running the ball at certain times. Now we did, and this is the same game, Minnesota 2021, we did also have a counter off of that, so where Lamar would open to the right. Watch Lamar's footwork, though. He's not reading this. This is a called give, and it makes sense, right? There's a pulling guard, the right guard, Kevin Zeitler, and then the H-back or fullback, Ricard, is pulling it as well. It's only like a 3 or 4 yard gain, don't get me wrong. There's nothing revolutionary about it, except for the standpoint of now Lamar is opening and facing the offense's right, defense's left, and the running back is winding it back. So he's going to Lamar's right, the side Lamar opens to, and then he's pulling it back to the other side. So you're getting this natural kind of wind back where the running back can accelerate, and it's a gap scheme essentially off of an option look. We'll give you the end zone angle so you can see what I mean. And if you're new to the concept, don't worry. It's a lot of people are. So we can still leave this D end unblocked and read him, and I'll show you an example of us doing that in a moment. So you get a nice view here of the running back going on the midline and then veering it back to the other side. When I say the midline, if you're unfamiliar with that, the midline is the hash where the ball is where the ball is pre-snap. So the midline is, look at the helmets of Lamar, the running back, and the center. In order to do this, to make this work, Lamar has to give up the midline. He has to get off the midline, clear his hips from the midline so that the running back can go down the midline and then plant off of his right foot and go in this direction. Why? Why do you have to do that? Because what was happening was, like with the previous play, there wasn't enough conflict for the defenders. Lamar keeping it and the running back going downhill were on the same side. In this case, if Lamar is reading this DN, which is entirely possible that he is, he chose to keep it. But there's a lot of conflict because Freeman ends up going to the left of the offense and Lamar ends up going to the right. A little bit of an evolution, even though this was earlier in the season. Okay, so the Minnesota game happened after this game. This is a true counter option scheme where the fullback is now going to the play side, and then you have the guard and tackle pulling. And again, you get a wind back by the running back, Lamar opening to the right, and then the running back veering off to the offense's left. The difference with this is the fullback is going to the flow side in terms of Lamar keeping it. It ends up being a 21-yard gain. So you really have like 3 plays in here, okay? Number 1 would be the first play I showed you, where Ricard was on the right. Andrews was on the right. He read the DN, looped around. The running back went to that same side. Let me get these lines off the screen. Lamar opened in this direction, kept it, and then remember that DN for the Vikings made a tackle or, came close to making a tackle. Lamar got back to the line of scrimmage. Then the second play that I showed you, again, Lamar opening to the right, and the H-back Ricard, who was here, and the guard pulling and kicking Freeman for like a 3-yard gain. This one is the third play in the progression. Lamar opening to the right, the back winding it back, and in this case, this should be an auto keep. This is a play that hasn't been used a lot this year. I wonder if this is going to be shown in this game. Now, this is 21 personnel right now. You have 2 running backs and 1 tight end and 2 receivers. The Ravens can run it out of 22 personnel. We'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it. And then we're going to show you some stuff the Ravens have done in 2022 with it. You have 1 tight end, Andrews, 1 fullback, Ricard, tailback in the backfield. So you're going to get a pull by the guard and tackle. The right tackle is Macari. And these 2, the fullback and the tight end, are going to go opposite. Theoretically, Lamar should be reading this D end. If you're a Giants fan and you're unfamiliar with the concept or you haven't seen us play a lot, this is going to give you an indication of what the Ravens think of certain defenders. Because, like, for example, this is Chris Jones. Chris Jones is a badass. He's very difficult to block. So what's the concept and the option? Don't try to block him. If you don't have anyone who successfully can, leave him unblocked, read him. Now, we know he was playing 5 technique, then he's more of like a 4 technique or a 3-eye. But point being, the Ravens have multiple plays, at least 3 that I've described to you so far in this video. All right, the one that's really, really taken teams to school so far, and when I say taking teams to school, I mean giving people a lot of conflict, is their counter wind back. Really first started to use it against the Patriots. It's similar to the second play that I showed you. Lamar opening to the left, and then the running back veering back to the opposite side of the formation. Lamar could keep it. Let me pull this back, sorry. Lamar could keep it, but look, you've got a pulling left guard. You've got Ricard who came in motion. He ends up pancaking Matthew Judon here. Lamar opened to the left. The running back started to the left and then veers it back. It's Justice Hill. He's a real violent runner. He's not going to play Week 6 against the Giants. An ACL injury last year. Really resurrected his career. Cool to see him, succeeding. I'll show you the end zone angle here in a moment so you can see it. This scheme is giving people a lot of trouble for a whole lot of reasons. And the Ravens kind of even went a step further in Week 5 against the Bengals and how they did this. All right, so Lamar is opening to his left. Theoretically, he could be reading that defender. If he is, I would say this should be a give, which it is a give. He gives it to Justice Hill. Justice Hill, veers it off tackle, and then we know winds it all the way back for like a 35, 34-yard gain, something like that. this play has also been very successful late in games. Lamar putting the ball in the running back's gut and then just keep it and outrunning a DN to the sideline because people are allocating so many resources to stop the flow side of this play. Who it really puts in the most conflict, if you ask me, is the backside inside linebacker. Because the way that teams stopped the option in the past, the way that teams stopped the Ravens options in the past is this. When the running back was going to the side that Lamar opened, and then Lamar was keeping it or giving it and running to the same side that the running back flowed to. Here's all that teams did. And Tennessee in the 2019 playoff game really made this look easy. They took the D end or outside backer and they ran him down to force a keep read by Lamar. The inside backer just did a scrape exchange because he knew what Lamar was going to do. He was going to keep it. Now, the Giants, I think, will have a good plan for dealing with that play and this concept where the Ravens are probably going to have to loosen them up is get in the pistol, mesh with the running back, and throw some play action. It's difficult to do to your left because right-handed quarterbacks opening to their left, their hips, their chest, and everything is facing the sideline. To be able to flip your hips back and then throw the ball downfield is a violent and quick and fast twitch movement. Now, Lamar's got plenty of twitch. Everybody knows that. But it's a difficult thing to do. If you're a Giants fan or even a Ravens fan watching this, understand that at some point when we're in the pistol, teams are really going to start to load up the box. Now, having said that, I mean, the Patriots are trying to do that here. You got 3 down linemen. You got an outside backer. You got an inside backer, 30, who's walked up as an edge defender. So that's 5. Jabril Peppers, who's like a strong safety nickel type. Okay, so that's 6. You got an actual inside linebacker, that's Bentley, 7. And then now you have this hybrid safety linebacker, 21. So this is an 8-man front. And the Ravens are running this play successfully. There's a lot going on this play. The timing of it is really working out in the Ravens' favor. So far, to me, this has been the Ravens' base concept. When I say base concept, I mean their base play that they're running successfully against everyone is what I call counter wineback. 4-yard gain, Justice Hill. Lamar opening to his right. So you can see Lamar facing this way, and you see him stepping off the midline, giving Justice Hill the midline. You also see the right guard pull. And we've already got trips over here. We've got a tight end, a fullback, and a receiver. So as we pull this guard, numerically, this linebacker almost has to cross the midline to match the guard. Just numerically. Let's just talk simple math. When that guard pulls, you kind of need him to go there. And in this case, it ends up being a 4-yard gain to Justice Hill because the Patriots have enough hats over here to stop it. Makes sense. In a moment, I'm going to show you against the Bengals how the Ravens kind of set the Bengals up. And late in the game, Lamar is keeping this. And there's really one pre-snap indicator as to whether he's going to keep it. Do I think he reads it? Absolutely. Do I think there's some times where he looks pre-snap and says, I can just outrun that D-end? I think that happens sometimes as well. Another counter wineback. 22 personnel. You can see I could show you 20, 25 plays of this. It's not saying that it's unstoppable, but 22 personnel is definitely going against the grain in the NFL in the, quote, modern game. I was personally not someone, as a Ravens fan, who wanted to see us in the pistol a whole lot. There, you can see Lamar's hips go off the midline, giving the midline to Justice Hill. And in this case, the Patriots have enough hats because 21 and 8, the inside backers on this play, are at the point of attack. If you were to look at this in hindsight, you would say, Lamar, we'd like you to keep this. You got Judon staying outside leverage. And then off screen, don't know if you guys can see that. You've got a corner down here. I don't know if you guys can see his foot at all. It looks like you cannot because of the frame. So the Patriots, certain teams have stopped it at certain times. All right, here's what the Ravens are doing. 22 personnel. I believe sometimes we are coming to the line and we have 2 plays called. And depending on how the defense lines up is what we do. We have a tight end backside. They have a corner. And they have a safety, Von Bell, an incredible football player. So I think what we've done is motion Ricard to this side, and let's run the counter wind back up to the top side. And the way the Ravens do this is beautifully timed. First of all, watch the pulling lineman, the right guard pulling and kicking, the right tackle, Moses, wrapping up to the inside backer. All right, so you understand the concept. Now watch the timing of what Ricard and Andrews do. Andrews is going to go here to the front side inside backer, start to break down, and then veer off. Simultaneous to that, Ricard is doing the same thing to this D end. Ricard is going at him, kind of starting to break down or buzz his feet just for an instant, and then he's going to veer outside. Andrews is going to go get the safety, or at least try to, and Ricard is going to go get this backer. I'll slow it down and run it a couple of times so you can see what those guys are doing. They're both executing fake blocks and then going up to the next level. It's not a new concept. It's not anything that's never been done before. It's just that the Ravens are doing this out of 22 personnel, and they're using the counter option scheme to it. When Lamar comes up to the line and he sees a safety here and a corner here, he knows he's got two receivers, well, one receiver and one tight end, and the fullback, who is essentially trips, or the third receiver to that side. Numerically, we have the advantage already because they've kept two backside. Pay attention to whatever you wish. I just think the timing of what Ricard and Andrews are doing, along with the timing of Lamar opening and the running back waiting for the lineman to get in front and then exploding, I think all that is really well timed up. I think the Giants are going to have a plan to try to stop this play. You know, it's more complicated than just put 8 guys in the box, put 9 guys in the box, because it depends on where you put them. They have a 7-man front, they being the Bengals here. They've got a corner to the front, to the strong side, and a safety to the strong side. You might say, well, why don't you roll the safety down and roll this safety back? Why don't you get the numbers over there to that side? Well, let me show you. I don't have the end zone angle on these plays, by the way. I've eschewed getting the end zone angle for some of the film because I only have certain storage capacity. So, same personnel group. Now we go trips. So how do the Bengals respond? Exactly like I said, except this is Von Bell. So the safety who was here before on the previous play, they've just moved him over to where Andrews is. And then Jesse Bates has stayed in center field. Now they got one corner backside, and they got an edge player. Well, what do you think Lamar does? Keeps it, outruns those guys to the sideline. Why? Because it's to the field. So if you're a Giants fan or a Ravens fan, you see us line up trips or even Lion to the boundary. Lion meaning offset fullback. You can expect we're going to open to our right. The back is going to cross Lamar's face, and he's either going to give it or keep it. Sometimes it's predetermined pre-snap just because of numbers. I think Lamar's pretty confident he can outrun these DNs. Well, how come these DNs just can't run upfield to stop Lamar? Well, we could run the actual option that I showed you the first play of, right? We could run the actual option where he goes here, he being the running back, and then Lamar opens to the side. We could run that play. And in that case, when the DN runs upfield, it becomes very easy to get at least 4 or 5 yards with any NFL running back whatsoever. So we're putting teams in a lot of conflict with a unique personnel grouping, a unique personnel play. I'm not sure who else is running this counter option scheme for real. Well, I mean, not many other people have a Lamar Jackson, right? Not many other people have that guy who can execute the scheme, who has the speed to outrun a defensive end and maybe even a corner for an 8 or 9 yard gain. Are they going to beat the Giants tomorrow with this concept? No. No, they're not going to beat them with just this concept. But to me, right now, this is the jab in the Ravens offense. This is their primary play out of the pistol when they have 22 personnel on the field, sometimes even 21, all right? I think Andrews is being used as a blocker more this year, and he's doing a nice job. Josh Oliver's also doing a better job than a lot of us, assumed that he would. Let me know what you guys think of this examination of the counter option scheme. I did a video on the counter option scheme after the Jets game because it was, for me at that time, I don't even remember what I said, to be honest with you, but I think I looked at it as kind of new because now we have stretched the difference between the dive back, the running back, and Lamar keeping it. They're no longer going to the same side. They're now going to the opposite side. Somewhat similar to like a zone read where the running back is on the side of the quarterback, maybe the quarterback's right, crossing his face going to the left, and then the quarterback could give it or keep it, now going over to the right-hand side of the offense. So threatening two different sides of the defense, creating some natural angles because you get players pursuing in one direction, and then you as the quarterback or the running back, all you got to do is make one cut, not a cut back necessarily, but just a one cut downhill. And sometimes you've got a bigger seam there because there's more conflict being created as far as spatial conflict for the defense because now the running back and the quarterback are threatening different sides. I'm interested to see how the Giants defend it. Do I think they'll defend it better than other teams? Yes, I do. Do I think they'll allocate enough resources to stop it? Yeah, I do. I also think that the Ravens have to figure out a way to run the play action pass out of that look and try to hit them downfield or maybe hit them on some slants or something to dissuade Wink Martindale and the defense from just packing as many people into the box as possible and having a simplistic answer. We've been using play action out of other formations, typically under center. I think we've got to use play action out of the pistol tomorrow in order to keep this Giants defense, which is very aggressive and tackles very well and is super aggressive. In order to keep them off balance, I think we got to go pistol, play action at some point early to get their attention so that they just can't sell out to stop what I believe, and I've presented to you in this video, is the Ravens' jab to Lamar Jackson being the cross or the left hook later on in the game. Let me know what you guys think of the video in the comments section, what you think of my ideas and some of the ways I broke down the plays here tonight. Appreciate you guys' time.